I see so many familiar faces. This makes me so excited. I'm ready for tonight. I told Nidal today, oh, I'm so calm about the dinner after the presentation because the chickies who are the chefs who shaved me also uh, are with Chef Diego, so we're going to be okay. And then Nidal is like, no, Diego is right there on the front row. So I figured a lot of chefs that are here are going to, we're having all other control chef. Well, for those who don't know me, I am Daniela. I'm from Mexico City, and I will tell you a little bit about my past and a little bit about how I ended up here talking to you. Well, I moved to Houston when I was 11 from Mexico City at a really young age, whenever I first was just starting to learn actual important things in school. I moved to the US, and my parents didn't ask us. They were like, "You're moving, we're moving." And 1 year later they get divorced. So my sisters and I were like, "Oh, but we like to do this, we want to do this, we want to do that." So we had to start working. And I come from a line of like really strong women that love to cook, and they all went to school to cook, but they didn't follow their dreams to cook. They just didn't think that it was a respectable thing in Mexico to be a chef as a woman. So, but I cook with them always. For me, my side work was polishing silverware, doing the metate for the chiles. No, this is me having fun growing up, while my sisters were dancing and were doing sports, and I was the one that was helping my family. So go back to Houston, and I started to have to start working. So I worked in a restaurant, and my job was toasting bread. It was this Italian restaurant, and I said I was 16. I didn't have at the moment the permit to work in the US, but I had to work because my mother had 3 children, my dad had gone back to Mexico, and we wanted to help, no? So we started working, and the 3 sisters, me and my 2 sisters, we were in restaurants all the time, and while I was also swimming and in different sports. So my idea of the future of what I was going to do was to be a swimmer, no? And because I loved these team sports and all of this, but at the end, when I got to college for swimming, and they take the scholarship away from me, I said, Daniela, what do you love to do? And I had worked in kitchens since I was 11. And I said, I think I want to be a chef. I want to continue doing this. So here I go with zero money. I bought my ticket to go to Europe, and I had, I think, like 100 euros. And I tell my grandma, they took this scholarship away from me. This is back in Austin. I'm going to Europe. And she said, what do you mean? Did you tell your mom? No, I didn't tell my mom, but please don't tell her. I'll figure it out. So there were times that I would sleep in ATMs, and I will go and ask to have a job somewhere and just for a meal, So I think I really wanted to tell this story to you because I'm really young. I'm 32 years old. And when people see someone young that has success, they're like, nah, they didn't get there. Like, no les costó trabajo. Like, they didn't suffer. Like, they need to suffer more. No? And you don't know the story behind and how that I'm shaking because I care. But I'm like, passionate. Okay. And I want to tell you this story because you can never forget about how to be authentic. And authenticity for me, I will tell you, is my soul and the soul of a chef. That story that you went through is not about who you work with, how many Michelin stars the chef has. If you were on the 50 best or on any list, it's about that soul. Do you bring that to your dishes, and do you bring this to the table? And every time I'm in a place like this, I care so much to tell you and project this story because it's really important to go back to understanding who you are. Like, don't forget who you are, don't forget the hustles, no, and anyway, I want to tell you this introduction before, I want to tell you about this new world, um, and before getting into this world, after traveling to these places with very little money, I find myself back in New York, meeting this big chef, and I get this opportunity. Go back to Mexico City, and in Mexico City, I find myself. I said, I finally got my green card. I cannot stay in Mexico. I have to go back to the U.S. So I get back to the U.S. We're opening this big restaurant. We open Cosme, but when we opened it, literally, I was 22, 23 years old, and I'm standing like this in front of a strip club. And I said to myself, Daniela, otra vez, like, why? Why do you say, you just get excited and you just go for it and you don't ask all these questions? How are you, like, this is not okay. So then I found out that this had to be the taqueria that we had to do, that I was on the mission to do. And let me tell you, it was really hard. I get to New York, I didn't know anybody. No one. I didn't know anyone in New York. I go to JB Prince, is this store for cooking, and I meet the owner because I said to him, I said to their team, I need to know the owner. Can I please meet the owner? And the guy comes outside and he's like, yes, ma'am, like you asked for me, and I said, yes, I want to make a kitchen. He looked at me and said, "What do you mean?" Yes, I have all the layout. I have all the list, and I want to make a kitchen. So can we please talk about how much is it going to cost me? And he looks at me and he says, "Remember, I came from Texas, and like I didn't know like anyone in New York besides a few people." And he gives me a card. He said, "Honey, you will fail. You're not going to make it in New York. New York is really hard." This happens to be a really nice person, by the way. Like, this is one of the nicest people. But he told me this, and he gave me a card. And I went back, and I remember I was shaking, just like I was shaking earlier. And I was shaking, and I said, oh, my God, what did I do? Like, I'm not going to make it. And I already told my parents I'm moving to New York. I have to do this. I took my picture in Times Square. Like, what? Like, no. And the restaurant was next to EMP, 11 Madison Park, the best restaurant, the blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, but my task is to open a restaurant, a taqueria. I'm going to do it. So I took that card. A week later, I was in La Bernardin, speaking to the chef, and being friends with the chef, and then going to another chef, going to the best restaurants, and starting from the bottom. I started washing dishes in all the best restaurants in New York for free. Nobody knew who I was, and I knew who I was, but I wanted to know more about myself. And I got caught by who was going to be the pastry chef at Cosme for the opening, and he looked at me when I was washing dishes, and he said, "Chef, what are you doing?" I'm washing dishes. Then we opened with 4 cooks, and then nobody wanted to work with a 22, 23-year-old woman, even though the name of the big chef was there. The chef running it was a young woman and a Latina. Why? Why would you want to work in a taqueria, right? And I remember just telling myself, it's okay. Like, I know that I'm going to make it amazing. And I was always just trying to figure it out, and trying to figure it out. And then we got these stars on this newspaper. And then we got all this press. And then everyone wanted to work with the amazing 25, 22, 24-year-old girl that happens to be Latina, and all of these things. And then fast forward to it, then I got this big award. And I woke up the next day. I had to go to Singapore, and I woke up the next day, and I said, no, no way. This is not me. I need to stop. I need to stop, and I need to keep learning. I need to keep learning. I need to go back to my roots. And for me, the whole time until then, this was 2 years ago. Um, for me, it was more. My American dream was always to go back to Mexico because I was never allowed. I couldn't really be there, no, in Mexico because I was working all the time and I didn't really have like the money to go back to the country or to learn new techniques. I had to go and do all these things, and I had to go to Europe, and I had to meet all these people. But then I knew in my gut that my American dream is to go back to my country. And I was talking to a taxi driver, and he told me, like, I have this house in IT. Do you want to see it? And he shows me. He's like, I work here really hard so I can go back to my country and have a house in front of the ocean. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's amazing, no? And I think it is important. While this is my American dream right now, or my dream right now, I think it's important that you understand of the movement. No? When you're on a road trip and you take your hand out and you go like this, like you are in that movement, but also the moment of stillness, the moment of like, oh, feel the air, I'm free. In order for you to have creativity, you have to allow yourself to have space, to be free in the mind, no? Free, what else, what are you going to do next? Just, I think it's really important to just keep moving, no? And anyway, so our new project is all about entering the plant and the ocean world. When you look at an ingredient and you don't know the ingredient, you have to know where it's sourced from. No, you have to know where the farmer grew up, and how does that align with your thoughts, and how does that become authentic? For us, it's about merging into where we are. No, you can open many places or many restaurants, but to really recreate itself and for it to be authentic, I believe that you have to look at your ecosystem. And your ecosystem is not only nature, it's the people around you and what they think. What are they thinking? What's going on? What aligns? And all of that, grab it and make that force and understand how does that connect with you. I wanted to write this because I think sometimes we talk about the price of things. We're like, oh, un taco, like I'm not gonna pay $12 for a taco. I can buy it in the street. So the product itself, when you put it on the table, the value of the person paying for it, it also connects with what you're doing. So if you look at a clam tostada, it's like you go to Compachava and you have the best clam tostada in the world, and then you go to another place and they charge $20 more for it. Like, what was your intention behind that? No, like, what was your intention behind charging more money? No, how do you perceive that? Why are you going to pay $20 more for something that is exactly the same product? No, and you have to be able to connect with the person with an image. No, we used to make this like tostada that looked like a girasol, and it was like a windmill. No, and when people looked at it, they're like, "Is that a flower? What is that?" Like, "Oh no, that's like 17 clams." And it was like about this connection that you have to let people disconnect. No, and the way I feel like the way you brand things is about you believing in yourself about it first. You can ask somebody to make you the branding, but if you don't believe in it, that will never connect to you. Also, create your movement. Like, you have to be able to create a movement. When we started the restaurant Cosme, I hired all Venezuelans. It started with one Venezuelan, another Venezuelan, and then everyone came from Venezuela. And I was explaining to them how to make Mexican food, and I will see harina pan for family meal on the corner of my eye, and I said, "You're cheating! What are you doing?" No, and in order for them to feel like fall in love with what I was doing, I had to understand their world. I cannot tell somebody to make an amazing taco and get that connection that our Mexican heart like our Mexican heart is right here because it's the fat and the acid connected with the right salt. But I cannot tell them to understand because they didn't come from my world. So in order to do that, you have to understand their world. No, the brand should be your own reflection of your travels, of everything you've done, but also go back, take a step back, take a step back and take all those layers out of everything you've learned. I saw a picture the other day of a car full with books, and it said on the bottom, read the same books that everyone around you reads, and you will go on the same ride that they will. So you go to a restaurant, you love that idea, you recreate it on your restaurant, you're not being authentic. You're not being authentic. You can think about what you love and take it to your restaurant and talk about the experience that you felt. Yesterday, I had the most amazing pizza, no? And I cannot stop thinking about this pizza and the hot honey and like all of it. And I said to the chickies, I said, that hot honey, that like I want to have that feeling. I want to have that feeling. Just remember that. Like, I want to have that feeling. Let's think about it. Let's think about how to create that feeling. Is it maybe when we smell the candle in the bathroom? Maybe it can be a honey candle from the beehive that we found on the farm the other day. Maybe we can turn that into a beautiful candle with some cayenne pepper. That's how you create something that you saw on your memories. I want to talk about the spaces. For us, I want to make it feel like you're in a woman's womb. Because forever I work for really incredible creative people. But I was never able to see a woman in the kitchen and say, I work with her, and I think it's really important that we all come from a womb and to have a connection with a space. You don't have to be a woman, you don't have to be a man, you don't have to be anything. You can just feel like you're somewhere, welcoming. It will make sense later. Don't worry about it. I get these calls and emails all the time. I want to open the Cosme of Paris. I want to open an Atlantis. I want to open something that you did here and we changed the name. No. How do you create that movement though? How do you create the fact that somebody asks you, I want to create this brand, the Nike of blah, 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 and let's take it here and let's switch it a little bit. How do you create that? That is branding. That is branding 100%. That is branding connected to a soul. When you have a space connect to soul, people will remember you. And this is a picture of the chickies playing, the reflection, and that movement. To never forget to keep moving. Same thing, the self-sustaining universe. Here's you. Here's your brand. And because the brand is gone, doesn't necessarily mean that you're gone. And that's really important. Don't take everything so personal. No? Somebody says something, oh, blah, blah, blah. That's a good idea. Like, how do I keep moving? No? And the only way to keep moving is to just be strong and believing it, no? Give your brand a name. And this is the new project, Rubra, which means to be born again. it means reincarnation. It also is the name of my favorite flower, Flor de Mayo, that when we were like, what name do we put this to this restaurant? And I said, I don't know. It has to, and always the name is so difficult because you think all these possible things that people might think, no? But what do you think? What do you love? Like, what is your flora? What is your fauna? What is your ecosystem? And does that connect to you? And I remember always picking up, on vacation, always picking up that flower, or always in all La Sierra and the Costa, always with that flower, no? And we thought that would be a really beautiful name. We said, let's do this branding and let's do it strong. And all the different branches that name could be. We started with the name. And we wanted to focus on three core ideas. And one of them was the sunrise on the sunset. And the two dots. Today is a new day. You have a new opportunity. Let's go. Today is a new day, no? Or thank you for having like my last day. And that's reincarnation and Rubra. So why branding can be so strong? How can you make an impact? Is from the beginning, from the name, look at the roots that the name that you chose, how does that connect to you? Your visual identity is not only the logos, it's the graphics. It's how did you pick those graphics? This is like a big piece of art on the right that my friend made for this beer that we're making with coquixle. And coquixle is this fruit from the agave that has the bromelina, the same the bromelina from the pineapple. And I said, I want to make something cool with it. But then I look back and I start researching. That's how they made tepache from the beginning. Why do I have to invent something new? Why can't I just make it beautiful? Right? Why can't I just make it beautiful and mix it with corn and then from there make a painting out of it? Right? And then these are just like a little bit of the graphics that we're using. Different letters. We had to write them by hand. and we're just like, does this make sense? And it was just a lot of different work where we changed the graphics depending of the season. And again, I think the most important thing about branding is just to be bold. And the most important thing is because you close a restaurant or you close a business, you didn't fail. Like, I think that's really important. Like, sometimes you always think about, like, what is failure to you? Oh, I got this award because I'm successful. I'm successful because I got awards. I'm successful because I got on the top list. No. Keep moving. Keep moving. Like, you close something, what's next? Let's go. What's next? Look at the people around you and let's go. Let's do something fun. Let's do something new. Let's do something authentic. What do you think is authentic? Like, let's talk about you this time. How do we create that movement of nonstop and this energy that people are going to just visually look at? This is another metaphor because sometimes you're like, what does that even mean? Like the desert that becomes the ocean. And this is again talking about the space in your mind. I think sometimes we're so busy with our lives, with the people around us, with what's going on, with what's bad, what's good, and then you're in a bad mood or you're happy about something that doesn't even relate to what's important. When you have that space there of like stopping, that's when creativity starts. And for branding, I think there's something really important for us. And then create anticipation. We're really creating anticipation because the project is taking so long. This is the space, how the space started. And the space started with a mold of what I believe the restaurant would be growing up from the bottom. And I told the architect, I want it to be just one piece. Like, one piece. That's it. Simple. just one piece. So we started talking to different sculptors, and we found this guy Pablo Kobayashi that does these awesome like balloons, and he also does these cool buildings. And we said to him, just one piece. So he started just like creating, by little by little of the same fabric, of the same material, the whole restaurant. So it's a very, very simple restaurant. And here's what the images of how we created curves and movement around the whole restaurant. So this is something we're really proud of, because I've worked in a lot of comales, and when it comes to the comale, something so important for us in Mexico. It just has to be perfect. When it breaks, it's really sad, but a lot of stories come with it. And I was thinking about it, and I said, I want to make a comal that projects my dad, how he grew up. And we were talking about it, and then we were like, he went, after going to law school, then he went to La UNAM, and he was so happy playing basketball in La UNAM with this school. And we thought, I wanted to look like that building and a DJ booth. How did I think that? I have no idea. And then they came up with this. So it's this beautiful comal that is like is a more contemporary take on the traditional beautiful comales from all over Mexico. And then objects. We're trying to do everything from zero, things that can be done from zero. So Rubra is also tezontle, is this rock in Mexico, and we wanted to make the wine buckets. It's been difficult. So everything from where do we get the wood from? What is the shape of the nail that goes in the wine bucket? This is a drawing that we made for candles. It didn't work. It was too windy. I said, if we have 10 pesos I'm making an example, to have chairs and tables, and it cost me the same amount of money to do it ourselves and design it ourselves, why not? I don't want to have something that says this brand and this is expensive. It doesn't matter sometimes how much things cost you, it's how you made it. Did you care about it? Did you care about it? And sometimes, and when you walk into the restaurant, it's going to look so simple that you might not even notice it. And that's perfect. No, that's what we want. We want to create a space that people don't really have to think about it. So that's a banquito for your purse. And then we had like one opportunity to have a piece of art. We wanted to represent the constant thought and the constant movement. And we made this pensante, and this form of thinking, I think, is something that we always do. We always do when we are at that moment of like, what am I going to do next? How do I start again? And we wanted to create that moment of this person looking at the ocean. So when people come into the restaurant, having that emotion of like, I look like that. Like I've done that before, and right away you have that emotion of being connected to something without noticing it. Little things that we made, the check presenters and things from zero, spoons, and you will think, oh, that looks expensive. No, we just had a little bit more time to do it ourselves, and being able to design it instead of just buying something that was done. And uniforms. This is something that has been a long project. We drew these sketches, and I said, I want people to feel proud and look good when they're working, and I want to take the Yucatan jungle style back. So we are creating everything. We want to look like that, the stripes, and feel vibey, jungly. So everything, and if you look at it, everything relates back to what the desert, where we are, where the ecosystem, and all the colors. Again, going back to that delicious pizza I had last night, I will never forget. How did it smell? Never. When you create a brand, don't forget about the smells. If that's like just that little detail, I think it's really important. No, how does it smell? Can you like maybe not spend a lot of money on a candle and make your own? Maybe let's figure it out. And then again, what if the brand that you created is gone? It happens. It happens. That brand that you work for so long and that you put all your love in, it's gone, or you stepped away from it. What if that happens? Will it survive? Will the brand, the person or the team that created that brand, will it survive? And if you really think about it, of something that is well done as a brand, as a story, it will, because you remember. Sometimes it's not about the space. No, sometimes it's not about the actual food. It's that world they created. It's that world of like going in there and feeling like, oh, y otra vez. Like, I'm here. It's gonna be fun. Like, oh, this is the vibe. This is the vibe about how I'm going to feel when they open in this place or when they're here. I'm really excited about this. And all of this is the work of a team creating a strong brand that connects, that connection of the mind of somebody spread around the space, no, and the letters and everything. And that's it, Rubra, estás en tu casa, gracias.